I want to thank everybody for coming in today and watching this special edition of the Baba Eli Show. I have a very, very special guest here from Lagos, Nigeria. His
Yes.
name is Zuburi Kaderi.
Thank you, Baba Eli. It's
You're
an honor to
welcome.
be here.
And he's here to talk about some global issues that we're having, and he's got some solutions for them. So I'm just going to start off by asking you, what is global access advocacy?
All right. So thank you once again, Baba Eli, for having me here. Most people ask me what I do. In my everyday job, I'm an investment manager, but my real crusade and passion, I call myself a global access advocate because global access advocacy has become one of the most important things to me. So, what is global access advocacy? I'm going to read a document which is the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, which is a document that bounds all United Nations countries, and it is a United
Mm.
Nations document. I'm just going to read Article 1 and 2 of this document. It says, Article 1 says, all humans are both free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Now, it gets interesting in Article 2. It says, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it is independent, trust, non self governing, or any other limitation of sovereignty. Basically, this document says that if you are from a country that is a member of the United Nations, we are all equals and we have equal rights. But if we look at the reality of the world today, there is a lot of things that are very, very interesting that global access advocacy seeks to fight. For example, um, I was originally born in Lagos, Nigeria. Because I have an identity that I didn't choose, because for every human being in the world, you choose the clothes you wear, the cars you drive, the house you live in, who you get married to. You choose many things, but there's one thing no human being ever chose. It is the place where they were born. Someone chose that place for them, but that place becomes the identity they carry for the rest
Mm-hmm.
of their life.
That's right.
And now, if you look at this document, it says, by rights, I'm supposed to be a free being who's able to access every opportunity available to me. But being born in Nigeria, for example, I only can travel to 45 countries visa free. Whereas an average, I also hold a second nationality, which is the St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship. With that citizenship, I can visit 157 countries visa free. It's the same me. With one identity, I only have 45 countries to go to. With the other identity, I can go to 157 countries, but it's the same. So the difference is the identity. So what is global access advocacy? It is the advocacy that based on the United Nations Human Rights Charter that I just read, people should be able to move freely around the world and interact in the spirit of brotherhood. That's basically what global access advocacy is. So I
Mm-hmm.
introduce myself as a global access advocate because I'm championing that conversation, beginning to ask both private and public sector people to begin to speak more to the freedom of movement conversation because freedom of movement impacts basically everything as humans that makes the world a better place. Thank you, Pops.
That is really fascinating to hear.
Yes, sir.
I can remember as a kid, probably in the sixth or the seventh grade, and I went to the United Nations in New York via my school. And I was amazed to see all of the flags of every nation. It was just truly an awesome sight. But then, one of the first times I ever watched the United Nations on television, they are really separated. They have their own little groups, their own little cliques, their own little ideas. And it made me wonder why they call themselves the United
Exactly,
Nations.
which is what global access advocacy is trying to bridge. That gap that makes us feel more different than similar is what global access advocacy is trying to bridge.
Wow. So I've got another question here for you. How does global access advocacy do to make a difference?
Okay. It totally means that I have an advantage as a St. Kittian that a Nigerian will never have. That
Mm.
is the inequality that global access advocacy is trying to address. That if the United Nations Charter that says we are all equal, why can't we all have equal access? If it says it doesn't discriminate against color, political, or national or social origin, then why can one person enjoy this and the other person not be able to enjoy that freedom of movement? So global access advocacy is seeking to make a difference because we recognize that the most valuable currency of the 21st century is no longer any of the fiat currencies in the world. I mean, the pandemic showed us that. It is freedom of movement. Global access is the most valuable currency in the world right now. And what global access buys you is what we call speed. Speed is just an acronym for security, privilege, exemption, endowment, and
Okay.
dynasty planning. Every human being in the world today, the outcome of your life is being shaped by these five things. One, security. Security means how protected are you based on the identity you carry from imminent danger. For example, if you are from a war-torn environment, do you have the liberty to just get up out of danger and move to another geographical location by virtue of your identity? We saw some of this play out in places where during civil wars, the citizens were not allowed to move freely to other places of safety. So the question is, how much security does your identity give you? Privilege. I just explained my situation. As a Nigerian, a choice to go to the United Kingdom is maybe a 30 or 40 days decision. But as a St. Kittian, it's a 4 hours decision. See, I have privilege, which means an average St. Kittian will get to the front of the line before a Nigerian. And this is very peculiar to a lot of African countries. Talking about endowment. Endowment because today we see business exchanges between countries, for example, where they do exchange programs. Some countries don't have the privilege for their citizens to enjoy those exchange programs. Exemptions. We see these exemptions. You have a certain nationality, for example, and you're traveling through airports and ports of entry. You go through more scrutiny than other people. Why are those other people enjoying more privileges? I thought we were all supposed to be equal and not judged based on our race, social, or national origin. And then dynasty planning. To say the truth as it is, the world has never gotten better. Uh, if it continues to follow this pathway, every human being wants to plan for their future words, their children, their unborn children, their families. They want to plan for them. So, how is your current identity impacting on dynasty planning? This is why global access advocacy has become a conversation that we need to bring to the fore and talk a little bit more about because, not even a little bit, talk more about because it is putting limitation on people who have so much opportunities, but those opportunities are being stifled by the system that we live in.
And this question that I'm getting ready to ask, I'm quite sure Mr. Kadari is going to have a good answer for it because we need one. I'm tired of so many places that have absolutely no access. For my honeymoon, my wife and I, we went to Jamaica. That was 3 decades ago. But the fellow who carried our suitcases and so forth for us, our sky cap, he told us he had never been off of the island.
Stories everywhere.
I said, why not? We're not allowed off of the island. We cannot get a passport. There's only one country we can go to. I said, what is that? He said, Haiti. So we're looking for answers all of the time. Let's get some more. How do we challenge our governments to drive more inclusion in global access advocacy?
Yes, as the word says, it's an advocacy. And I am branding myself an advocate for that. Uh, we need to become more intentional about driving our governments by starting campaigns and petitions to demand that our governments invest more in bilateral relationships. The challenge is, let's take, for example, visa free access. Visa free access are the products of bilateral relationships between countries. So, if my country, for example, is not investing heavily in building bilateral relationships with other countries, then the exchange benefits like visa free access, ease of doing business among citizens of those countries won't happen. So, the ball is at the feet of the governments. The governments of these United Nations countries need to become more intentional about building bilateral relationships that benefit her citizens in exchange. So if one country has 150 plus visa free access, it's not because it just fell off the sky. It's because people who were intentional in government drove those initiatives. And that's why we, the people of the citizens of the world, we need to start putting more demands on our governments by starting campaigns and driving petitions, insisting that our governments build bilateral relationships intentionally to make ease of doing business, ease of exchange, freedom of movement, and all of this so it can happen for all of us. And then we can truly say we are free beings.
That sounds perfect. The hard part about all of that is going to be the opposition. Sometimes our governments just don't get it.
Yeah.
And that really annoys me. I was looking at something on YouTube the other day, and I can't remember which European country it is. They stopped another country in Africa from growing onions. And this European country is going to sell this African country all of its onions from now on. And I'm saying to myself, this country, this African country, is not that economically powerful. Why would they give away one of their resources to a European country that has plenty of money? Well, that's your own government letting you down. That's all
Yes.
it is. If you lived in that country, I can't remember the name of it. If you lived in that country and you were an onion farmer, and that was one of your main money sources for farming in your country, how would you feel?
Well, like I said, the dynamics of the world is what it is. But we are free beings, and even the United Nations Human Rights Declaration says that we should not be judged by our nationality or social origin. The responsibility to place a demand on that is on us. So I always say, as an African to Africans, it is our responsibility to hold our governments accountable.
Amen.
We are not the ones, we're not going to sit and wait for them to do the right thing. We voted them, most of them, into power. So we have the right to say no when it's time to say no. And we do this by campaigns and by petitions. I do not subscribe to violence, but I definitely believe we should speak more about improving bilateral relationships with these countries. In our countries, in our place of residence, we should speak out. Things can be better. Exchange of business is a big part of global access. People, I always try to make people understand that your options are as only as powerful as the environment in which it thrives. So your proficiency is only great in the environment it thrives in. Your proficiency may do 40% in one location and do 100% in another.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have access to the environment where it can do 100, you will cap at 40. This is the reason why global access is an advocacy we must drive. And that conversation is an ongoing conversation, even beyond here. When we are not here and our kids are here, it's a conversation our kids need to continue to push in campaigns and in petition, demanding that we want global access, freedom of movement, freedom of ease of doing business with other nationalities so that we can bolster an economic growth that is truly global and is truly unified. That's my take and those are my thoughts.
How are you making a difference currently as you champion the crusade for global access?
Oh, well, uh, whilst I speak about this everywhere I go, In my everyday work today, like I said when I introduced myself, I'm an investment manager, but I decided to dedicate myself to investment migration since my background is in investment. What is investment migration? Most countries will give you only two channels to become a citizen of their country. For example, it's either you were born in that country, so it's a citizenship by birth constitutionally, or you meet what is called the naturalization requirement, which is either you marry somebody from the country or you
Mm.
meet a minimum stay requirement in that country to qualify you to become a citizen of that country. Now, that class, the interesting thing about that model is that there are lots of people who will fall into those two categories, which are typically people in the upper class of the society who have achieved a significant success in one location. Telling them to uproot themselves to go and live somewhere else for 3 to 5 years just because they want to assess the benefits of that new identity or residency or citizenship, it's a tough one. It is for those people the industry calls citizenship and residency by investment exists. And that is what investment migration is all about. I work in that space currently right now. I'm country manager for a group called Reef Trust, which is a global group driving citizenship and residency by investment. We've onboarded close to 7,000 people across 100 nationalities in the last 11 years, providing that value and service. I work in this industry as my everyday job because beyond the passion to see global access advocacy, I'm trying to make that difference one person, one family at a time. And that's what I do right now. So I work as an investment migration expert, helping people acquire a second citizenship or a second residency through the channel of investment.
Now, you just mentioned second citizenship.
Yes.
I have lived in this country for 73 years, the United States. And until about 10 years ago, I was influenced to believe it's the best place in the whole world you could live. Then, through studying and a bunch of it, I found out it's not the only place that you can live in this world and be happy. I always thought of the United States as happy because I looked at the world through their eyes. Now I see just tons of what we call expats, people leaving this country to go to Ghana, Nigeria, Colombia, Brazil, uh, Costa Rica, Mexico. So there is a migration globally that's going on. And I'm hoping that what you do will assist them to get their documentation,
Yes.
their citizenship.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you should give up your United States citizenship. What I'm saying is have two.
Yes.
And if you have to, have three.
Absolutely. Lots of people don't realize that the United States is a very amazing country for one key reason. It allows her citizenship hold multiple citizenship. Not every
Yes.
country in the world
Hmm.
accepts that. Some countries don't allow their citizenship hold their citizens hold other citizenship. If you have to hold another one, you have to renounce the existing one. But the United States is great for that. And as a United States citizen, you can hold multiple citizenships, which is a beautiful thing. So kudos to the US for championing that. And a lot of countries, like my country, Nigeria, accepts that as well. So it's a big advantage for me, which is a big disadvantage, for example, for countries where this doesn't happen. So for people who are from those countries, they need to start speaking to their government to say, why am I not allowed to hold multiple citizenship if I am truly a citizen of the world? If I am part of the United Nations and you're signed to this charter, why don't I have the freedom to hold other identities, whether in addition to the one I have now? And yes, you're right, Baba Eli. The world is a beautiful place,
Hmm.
but it's only as beautiful as the one you have experienced. Uh, I've been privileged to, last year alone, I visited 13 countries for work, meeting people along this pathway of global access advocacy, looking for ways to deepen relationship for my group and for the conversation around global access advocacy. And that has helped me to see the world from a completely different place. I'm right now in the US. I have been to China. I have been to Malta. I have been to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. And I can tell you for free that life is beautiful everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There are pros and there are cons to each environment. But the beauty of being a global access citizen is that you can harness all the pros in each place and then create an amazing life for yourself. Some of us like to go to certain parts of the world for a holiday. For example, it's cold in the West during Christmas. Most people would like to migrate to a region where it's warmer, and that's Africa. And then it is colder in the summer in Southern Africa. So most people like to come towards the West for holidays. But you see, all this is possible because I have global access. If you don't have global accessibility, you can't harness this. And that's what the conversation is about. We have to help people break this barrier called global access limitation. That's why we advocate it.
And once that barrier is broken, people have to understand travel.
Absolutely.
Travel. I've been to Lagos, Nigeria 3 times. Uh, the experience of it was amazing. The first time I got off the airplane at the airport, security was all people of color. To get out the doors of the airport, it was all people of color. Walked out, the police were all people of color. As a matter of fact, the pilots and the airline stewards on the jet were all people of color. I had never witnessed anything like this. Because normally when in this country, when you have a lot of people of color, you have a lot of people who don't have color policing you. So you still don't feel like
You're amongst your own.
you're free. You
Yes.
still don't feel the freedom that you should feel by being in your own neighborhood. You're worried about when a police car drives by. But over there, as I walked, it just gave me an immense freedom. So if you can take advantage of that and be able to visit that, I worked at something called The Experience, the world's largest gospel concert. The night of the concert, they took the tarp off of the work area I was in, and I looked around and I saw 800,000 people of color. I didn't see any police, and I was
Yes.
confused. How can you have 800,000 people of color and there's no police? But see, when you say to yourself, this is the only place on the face of the earth right here, the United States, you'll never get a chance to visit a city like Lagos, which is one of the biggest cities in the world and also one of the most beautiful.
Absolutely.
You'll never get to Ghana and see those cities. You'll never get to Bolivia and see those cities. So what this brother here brings us, all of us need to try to experience some of that.
World.
Get out there and see what the world is. I'm not talking about going to France. I'm not talking about going to Britain. I'm talking about going to places where you'll be free.
Yes.
Take
Abs-
advantage of that.
Take advantage of that. The world is a beautiful place. You know, I also say it's interesting how the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights says that we are all free beings regardless of color. So when I see people, I don't see color. All I see is an equal being like me, regardless of what color. The
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing about it for me is, regardless of what color we have on the outside, we all have one color inside, and that color is red,
You
because that's
got
the
that
color of
right.
our blood. So I would rather look at the fact that as long as you have red blood running in your cells, we're equal beings. Why don't you want to experience my world? I like to experience your world. I like to do business with you. I like my kids to come and learn your culture. Your kids come and learn my culture. And together, we can build a big, happy world, which is what the Article 1 of the Human Rights Declaration says, in the spirit of brotherhood. That brotherhood is what Global Access Advocacy is championing for. And I want to welcome every one of you out there. Be a part of this campaign, be a part of this petition. Let's put demand on our government to increase bilateral relationships for the benefits of our citizens. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Is that your final word you want to say?
Absolutely. Thank you
Oh,
very
that's a
much.
good final word right there. I want to thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Baba
And
Eli.
to our audience, we're going to just keep on bringing you people like this that can help you steer your car where you want to go. Because right now, with the way things are in this country, you can't steer your car like you want to because you've been given an impression this is the only place where you can drive a car. It's not. Uh, I mentioned a few minutes ago about expats. I'm about to become an expat this spring 2025. I'm not going to give any further details on that yet. I have a show coming up on that. But I am going to experience my dual citizenship. And it's going to
And you're looking
happen by
forward
the
to
end
it.
of 2025. My only regret is I had to wait until my age to do it. I wish I could have done it younger. But I had no idea of what the world was really like because I was told that the United States is the world. It is part of the world. So I want to thank you for helping everybody here in America that's watching this get a better idea of some of the things that they can do. Once again,
Absolutely.
thank you, brother.
Thank you, Baba
Appreciate you.
Eli. It's my honor to be here.
All righty.